can't find that person either.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call to order the council meeting for Monday, March 3rd, 2025. Start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ask Pastor Linda to say a prayer.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for today. Be with everyone here this evening. Give them wisdom, give them knowledge. We thank you so much for your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord and our Savior. Amen.
Amen. Okay, there's our attorney joining in. I'll also let everybody know we are live with sound and everything now. Thank you, council, for allowing that and making it happen so that everybody can see what's going on even when they can't be here in person. So we do have one public speaker, Kimberly Campbell. If you would approach the podium and state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Kimberly Campbell. I'm at 9714 Thomas Road here in Pleasanton. And I am just here to talk about my property. I was annexed in here recently. I filled out my paperwork a few years back. It just kind of got processed. And with that, I just kind of had questions on the benefit of staying annexed in the city. The speed limit did get changed, but it's not really abided by. Understandable, funds are short, I get that. I'm probably not gonna get sewer, I get that. Sidewalk would be super great, love to see that at some point. But I guess I would just like to kind of understand more of the benefits of not looking into de-annexing. And I would like to also ask the question, when I had called in, because I am supposed to get a reimbursement of a percentage for a set amount of years for the increase in my property taxes, and when I had called in and brought that up, because my mortgage is escrowed, I was told that that would be a problem, and I would like to ask, I mean, that really shouldn't be a problem, but I want to make sure that I am going to see that reimbursement as well. That's all I got.
All she has to do on the reimbursement is bring your people in.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why that,
Yeah.
who told you that would be a problem.
Yeah, but the escrow, because that and like that doesn't really matter, right? Okay.
No.
Perfect. Then that's great.
Yeah. The simple point that it got paid and you just bring in the receipt and
Yeah.
no taken care of there.
Perfect. Yeah, so no issue there or anything, right? Great. Awesome. That's all I got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda for the February 3rd meeting. It wasn't February, it was the what, 20th, I'm sorry, February 20th, I'm sorry. I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor? Passes unanimous. Jason Hoskins, we'll jump down to that. BG Consultants.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. Jason Hoskinson, engineer with BG Consultants, and I was here about a year ago. We kind of talked a little bit about the streets. I think at that time there was kind of a desire from the council to, let's see what the sales tax projections do and where we come in with revenue over a course of a year or so. And I understand there might be some interest now after having gotten about a year of revenue sources from that sales tax item to consider a project. And I brought some maps. I don't know if that would help. Last time we talked, there was kind of a focus on maybe Ash Street and maybe Cedar Street, but I thought I'd come here tonight and kind of see if there's a desire from the council, if you guys have maybe kind of leave it more open and get some feedback from you as to what you're wanting to see with your potential streets, maybe the size of a project, that kind of a thing. Try to help advise you from there, if you will. So.
What was our total on sales tax brought in?
Could you, while she's getting that, could you elaborate a little more on the 85-15 split?
Oh, for the cost share.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, so, yeah, there is cost share funding out there right now, and, so that program, it's administered through KDOT. It's state money, so you don't have the federal red tape with some grant programs out there. But it is, so the grant application is open right now, and, it's eligible, any street transportation type project is eligible for the program. There's kind of a couple of phases to a project. The initial phase is the design and getting it ready to bid, and then there's the construction phase after the bid. So the city pays 100% up front for the engineering, the design, and getting bids, and then KDOT will pay 85% of the construction phase, which is typically, your bigger part of your project. 90% or so of the project's going to be on that construction phase. So.
Is there a cap on that, if for the grant?
I think they do put a cap of, I don't know if they've raised it, if it's 2 million or something like that. They usually like to see, what I've seen is $500,000 to about a $2 million project for their funds going out towards a project. So, and a good rule of thumb that I use is for these projects, if you look at a total project all in type of cost, it usually ends up shaking out to about 2/3 KDOT, 1/3 city. So if you're looking at, say, $1 million worth of work, usually that grant funding is going to cover about 2/3 of that, 600 and some thousand, 650, 660,000, and then the city would have to front 330 in rough numbers. Yeah, that program's open right now. It is competitive, obviously. There's a lot of interest around the state, but I suggest getting in on it you're certainly not going to get it if you don't apply. It's a pretty easy application process. Then the question would be, if you do go forward, what streets do we want to focus on? Would it be out by the school? Would it be elsewhere around town? How do we start planning a project and going forward from there?
Becky, what number did you get?
So far, as of January the 31st, we have 219,875.93 in there. So we're averaging about 26,000 a month.
Your company does the RFQ and prepares that?
Yeah, so we'll do like the survey design efforts. We'll work with the city to develop and package a project, recommend, this is what we should do with the streets. This is the appropriate pavement structure, so to speak, and the design aspects. Basically putting the package together for contractors to then come in and bid on that work. And then we can help them through the entire process. We just don't build it.
Yeah. What's the, is it a percentage cost or a fixed cost or an hourly cost for doing the evaluation and
well, so a little history. We actually contracted with the city 4 or 5 years ago to kind of initiate looking at some streets and developing some preliminary thoughts and ideas. We kind of came up with a general phasing plan of what we might want to look at for priority of streets in order. We usually do that, kind of got, I don't want to say a fixed or a set fee. I look at how big that effort is and what all we're going to be involved with. Now, once you get to let's say you get a grant and you get funded, then we would look at, what kind of effort is it going to take for us to get you to the end, and try to provide fair market value for the engineering services.
with those engineering services, do you do contract supervision, superintendent sort of thing?
So yeah, we can talk about that if you do want to. We do have construction observation, construction engineering, construction phase where we have folks on site full-time or part-time, whatever you may need. The cost share program doesn't require full-time inspection. but it does require an engineer to be involved, at least with reviewing, is it getting built to the plans and specs? Is the contractor asking for the right amount of payment? If they're asking for 25% of the work, have they actually done 25% of the work? Or they, just making sure that the project progresses properly. But yeah, we can help you all the way through with that. Basically, the only thing we can't do for you would be build the project. So we'll help you through a bid process to go competitively bid that out. Get a contractor.
Are there provisions, or is there a possibility of, obviously we can't eat the elephant in one bite, we're going to have to spread this over a number of years. Is there a way of structuring a contract for future based on current prices? I mean, is there, it's like buying a fixed commodity.
It would be possible, I suppose. It's not that common in that type of atmosphere, just because, for asphalt, for example, it can be very volatile with the global whatever's going on. We don't have any control over it. There are price factors that could be priced into that that then could carry over into future years. But
well, if we were in a position to do, say, $150,000 or $200,000 a year, would you be willing to work with the contractor on concessions if we could work with a schedule so that it fit into his timing? Do you see what I'm saying? If we could get the contractor in here at his convenience,
yeah,
to minimize mobilization costs and.
My recommendation on that would be to actually look at it yearly and maybe bid it out every year. Because the one contractor that might be your competitive one now might be super busy with work next year, and maybe the guy that was busy last year can bid next year because he needs work. And then what we typically do when we set up bid packages and bid documents is we'll try to keep it as open as possible to where they can work it into their schedule. I mean, if you have a set amount of time, like if it has to be done in front of the school when school's out, so be it. But if there's not some kind of underlying reason why you dictate a certain type of schedule, we'd like to keep it as open as possible and let the contractors determine that with a lower price.
But there'd be certain requirements that each contractor, if they did do that they would have to meet before those would come. So it wouldn't be what they wanted to do, it'd be within the contract of what you guys lay out in the engineering contract.
Correct, yeah. So, rather, like if the city wanted to buy a lawnmower, if you haven't gone through design or anything, you haven't thought out, well, what kind of mower do I want? When do I want it delivered? How many of them do I want? And you just go ask somebody for pricing. They're going to come back with those questions. We help you through answering all those questions ahead of time. We know how many tons of asphalt, where, what they need to do, how to prep the base, go through all the efforts, what they have to do for traffic control, the time frame when they can do it. We establish all that and then put that out there for bids.
What type of redo frequency are we looking at for the streets that we did now? When would they need to be repatched or something estimatedly?
Yeah, so nothing lasts forever. Everything has to be maintained. As long as we get water away from the pavement, water can damage things. You could put it down this year, it'd be great, and in 2 years if you got standing water on it, you're gonna have problems. But as long as we've got some ditches to get the water away, if we do new asphalt surfacing now, you're usually looking every 5-ish years or so coming in and doing some crack sealing or chip sealing. I kind of think about what's the street coming in on 6th, right? Yeah, it was resurfaced not too long ago. Maybe it has been a little while now, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, something like that, I think.
Been longer than that.
Has it been longer than that?
I'd say 6 or 7.
Maybe 6 or 7, and I've noticed there are some cracks that probably probably about time that something gets sealed on those because water gets in and can damage the street. So you're looking at some more, I call that minimal maintenance, crack sealing, things like that in 5 to 10-ish years. If you can get about 20 years out of a surface before you have to mill it up and resurface it, you're doing good. If you go concrete, it costs more up front, but you can get 40 to 80 years out of it. You know, it can last a long time. But all of those improvements are not cheap. I'll say that.
So are you looking at do we do a 2-inch bed, a 4-inch bed, or?
Well, we've got a handful of options, and some of the areas, like on Ash Street there by the school, there's some areas that we could probably salvage what's there to a certain extent, and there are some blocks where it needs to be
Removed.
Yeah, started over basically. And we've done it. There's a few ways we can do that. Probably the more traditional way would be go ahead and remove the base, bad material, bring in good base rock, and then build up from there, and then put asphalt on top of that. We have here recently we've had some pretty good success with actually reclaiming in place, where they just grind it all up, and it's like a big rototiller in your garden, except it's a lot more elaborate than that. And then they add cement to it as well, and actually cement it, and create a more stable, less water susceptible base. Saves a little bit of money, uses kind of what's there instead of trucking everything off and trucking new stuff back in.
So we can recycle the millings back into places
Yeah, there could be
less trafficked.
There could be some places, yeah. Yes.
So the 3 streets that you have, you have Ash and Cedar, and what was the third one?
Was it 10th?
Was it 10?
Between Ash and Maine, I believe. When we sat down and looked at the map.
And we asked for prices on asphalt and chip and seal, right? So if we went chip and seal, could we do more than the 3 roads?
Yeah, if you go and just want to chip seal what's out there, you can extend your dollars a lot farther, but just know you're not getting necessarily a smoother surface or an increased structure in your pavement. The chip seal is kind of more of a, yeah, it's more of a sealing up the cracks periodically, especially if you get a lot of cracks, you can just seal them all at once. It's not really adding structure to the pavement. Now, over a period of time, if you do it enough, yeah, you'll build up some structure, but you will have spent a lot more money over those years to get there than if you would have done asphalt in the beginning. But to do the asphalt in the beginning, you gotta have the money to do it, or a grant or something to help you.
So you said there's an 80-15 grant, is that 85 state?
Yes, 85% state on the construction phase.
And there's no limit on that?
I don't remember off the top of my head if they have one this year. I think in the past it's been 2 million is the maximum you could ask for.
I brought it up, and it says cost share program for spring 2025 is 1 million max.
1 million, okay.
Originally, I was saying that we should probably hold off and build up our stockpile a little bit so we can bite off a little bit bigger chunk.
Yeah.
But if we can get an 85-15 grant, I mean, we could get, is that $1 million max what we can ask for?
It says requested funds must be no larger than 1 million.
So that would be the 85%.
That'd be the 85%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you ask for $1 million, and if we kind of go backwards with some design and look at that 2/3, 1/3 price, you've got not quite 300,000 in the bank.
219.
219.
Yeah, 219.
So you're, and if you're adding 25-ish thousand a month, you're going to be about at the amount of cash you need in a few months when this grant announcement's made to cover the $1 million ask. So you'd be looking at a $1.3 million project.
Well, I also don't want to liquidate all of our holders. So, I mean, if we can get a grant, I believe when we talked, it was Ash and Cedar was going to be about $1 million.
Yeah, that was my notes, was Ash and Cedar. and then come back and visit it in about a year when we get some dollars.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem, is bringing in the money. So I mean,
And if we don't get a grant, we have to have Plan B. So, because we have to come up with Plan B, because everybody in town's asking, you know, why we're not doing anything. So, I mean, I agree, the grant is a good grant, we should try it, at least.
Yeah, and it's a 6-month cycle, so it'll be back out again in the fall. I mean, hopefully get it the first time, right? But there are, you know, continuations in future years.
When does it say that we will know?
6 months, I guess.
can we apply for the grant, and our plan B is to hold off for another year, and save up our funds and do our patchwork we've been doing? I know it's not ideal, but if we can save up more money, and this comes up, say, a year from now we have 600,000, close to, that we could bite off a little bit bigger chunk.
Looks like they do spring and fall,
Yeah.
so.
Or we can try again in the spring. But I think, starting with Ash Street and possibly Cedar, I think those are our main two to get to and from the major attraction to our city right now is the school. Everybody comes here for games and stuff like that, so I think that that is our major attraction, and it needs to be increased as far as the streets go to facilitate that. And then we can start branching out once we've got the base down for Ash and Cedar. That's my thoughts on it.
Any other questions, comments, ideas, thoughts?
Throw the one
Does that
other
sound
thing
good?
out there would be to go ahead and look at trying to bond some, bond ahead. And
We're
try
really
to do a
not.
bigger project, but if that's not what you wanna do, and that's totally the council's preference, that's, you're in the chairs getting to make that tough decision, unfortunately.
That's kind of why we put the 1% sales tax out there. We don't want to go more in debt to pay for the streets, and then we're paying on it for 30 years, but then also having to pay to redo them. So we're paying on something we're going to have to redo anyways.
Yeah.
So next year, if we can't get a grant this 6 months, then we decide to wait a year. Can we get a grant each 6 months and do 2 sets of roads next year?
You can keep applying every year. That program, they do like to spread the money around though, so the chances of getting one back to back, I would say are slim. Not impossible, but slim. So I think putting a good project package together and going after it for a round one here in the spring makes a lot of sense. And try again in the fall if you don't get funded in the spring.
And I do know from experience that that is very competitive, and you normally do not get it the first time.
Yeah, so information regarding that, they said up to 6 million is available during the spring 2025. And higher consideration is given to those that are putting in more than 15%.
Okay.
So right now we're at 219 in the street fund, correct?
That was at the end of January, so there'll be more.
So we're sitting probably what, 260-ish,
Yeah, it'd be about,
270, somewhere around there.
yeah, 260s, 270ish by fall.
So I mean, if we bid off a $200 or $200,000 portion of ours, that's more than 15% of $1 million, which would cover Ash and Cedar. It would still leave us $60,000 to $70,000 in the backup fund for maintenance around town. To me, that seems like the best case scenario right now without draining our funds.
Sounds pretty reasonable.
So I guess, do we need a motion on moving forward with applying for the grant? Okay, Carl.
Can I ask you, sorry to interject, can I ask you from where to where on those two streets? I just want to confirm.
So, I believe we sat down, right, and we went over it. It was all of Ash Street,
Right,
from,
to 17
yeah, and then Cedar from here to Sixth.
to 6. Yeah, coming into town.
So, yeah, that's like our main thoroughfare without going down Main Street or Holly. But then also, I mean, this is
Right.
very traffic.
Okay.
I guess I'll make a motion to move forward with, the grant proposal for the streets. And do I have to give a dollar amount? Or just, okay, not to exceed $200,000?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to proceed with the grant, where our portion would not exceed $200,000. Any discussion? All in favor? Passes unanimous.
Sounds great. I'll be happy to help, work with Becky to pull some information together and help you get an application in, focusing on those numbers and cross our fingers and see where we go from there. We probably would want to get, or well, we will want to get some letters of support, so if you start, I don't know, Becky, if that's a task you would start with and then delegate from there, or how you want to handle that, but if there's anybody you can think of at the school and, just community interest groups and stuff like that, it'd be great to get some letters of interest from them, or letters of support, excuse me.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Yeah.
All right, we'll go back up. City administrator and departmental reports.
I don't have anything else unless someone has a question.
Anybody have any questions or anything on the departmental reports?
I'm gonna read the police department and codes and, fire, because several citizens have asked, because it's not published anywhere, have requested information on what our police department is doing. We had officers in training and, working the streets both. So we had a total of 32 traffic stops, 9 citations, 7 arrests, 18 call-outs, 17 cases, and 5 drug cases, 2 felony, 3 misdemeanors. That was broke down between alarm calls, ambulance runs, citizens assist, and various other things. For codes, we have 23 open cases, 2 cases are closed, 8 notices, 1 ticket, and we have 1 dog with puppies in the pound, is my understanding. And how many? 10 puppies, so that makes a total of 11 puppies, or 11 dogs in the pound. For the fire department, they're gonna have a meeting tomorrow night. They performed inventory of all fire department equipment. 1 call for service for a car in a ditch, no actions taken, no injuries.
And then meeting will be on Thursday night, I'm sorry, on Wednesday.
On Wednesday.
Wednesday the 5th.
Becky, on our dog food, are we still using what Candy was able to obtain, I think, from Chanute last time?
And we still got some left, and she has already been talking to someone about getting some more.
Awesome. Okay.
Anything else for that?
One more thing for department. Cartman is here. Cartman just finished KLETC. And he was the president of the academy down there. And we're very proud of him. He would finish with a grade point average of 94. Okay. So we're very proud of him and want to congratulate him and welcome aboard.
Fantastic. Compactor agreement with Lynn County. Jacqueline, did you
Andrew, do you have a muted still?
What was the question?
Compactor agreement with Lynn County. Did you have any?
Okay, so the revised agreement should be in your guys' packet. It's my recommendation that we go ahead and accept this revision, as it does incorporate all the things that we had discussed at all of the times that we've met before, including last week. So does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, it is my recommendation that we go ahead and approve it as revised.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the compactor agreement with the changes that have been presented and corrected for us.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the compactor agreement with all the revisions that have been made. Any discussion? All in favor? Passes unanimous.
Mr. Mayor, in reference to resolution 455, the student position, I make a motion that we accept that. And that would be putting them on for August, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's been moved to accept resolution 455, a resolution of the City of Pleasanton, Kansas, establishing a student representative position to the City Council. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor? Passes unanimous. Resolution 456, a resolution declaring that city-owned roads, streets, or right-of-ways where surrounded by a property owned by one private owner may be improved by private owner at his or her expense for the benefit of the city and owner upon request made to the city and approval given in writing.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept resolution 456 with the easement improvement application.
We'll drop this on.
Essentially, like Myrick, who's wanting to fix the area right there next to him, but it's in the easement. So we could move to make an agreement with just him to be able to do that one area, or we could set ourselves up to be able to, in the future, have people apply for stuff that they would like to do directly related to their property, making it a bit easier for the council.
So, what are we talking about? Like, redoing sidewalks?
He has a door on the north side of his building where he pulls in and stuff. He doesn't want a whole bunch of mud or concrete. Where the garage door is, it drops down, it creates a mud hole there. So when he's driving or bringing stuff in, then he's creating mud inside of his building. So what he's wanting to do is put concrete there so that there isn't any mud, so he can drive in or bring stuff into his building without having to create a mess.
So then the application that's attached would be what they would fill out and give to the city for approval of the work that they're wanting to do.
And then, who's to inspect it?
That is at the council's pleasure for what you all would desire that person or people's to be, or if you would like it to come straight to the council each time.
I'm just worried that if we start doing this and it gets approved and then there's no follow-up on it, I mean, what's protecting the city from, say, they lay the concrete wrong and causes an issue?
Yeah. That's where we have one to make sure that the application in writing that shows exactly what their intent is, and if they don't follow that intent, they would need to fix it.
So we're not gonna be inspecting it, make sure it's up to code or anything like that on city property?
Yeah, we would have to.
The codes officer.
That's where,
The codes officer would go in and make sure it didn't violate the code, like if somebody wanted to put up a fence and it was above the code limit of what we have set, then that would be put in the application. So then the code officer would say no, and then we'd have to reject it, send it back to them, and then they could either revise it or, you know, not go through with it.
Well, I'm not talking about like code enforcement, I'm like building enforcement. As far as concrete has the way it has to be poured, if it's not followed, but then it's on city property, if somebody gets hurt on it, it's still our property, right?
mm-hmm.
But we approved somebody to build something.
I think if we, in the section where it says improvements by owner, if they describe what it is, and let's take, for instance, the entrance into the building that we're talking about, you know, you'd be looking at a 4-inch, 3,000-pound fiber reinforced pour, because he's going to be looking, that's right at the edge of the road. You don't want it collapsing, but we don't have a city engineer. We don't really have any building codes other than national building standards that we can enact if we want to.
Okay, and my other question is, if we approve this and we approve a large concrete pour and find out that some of our city utilities are underneath of it and we have to access it, are we liable to replace it?
That'd be a question for legal.
Because I know a lot of our water lines that we're still finding today that we didn't realize we had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who
Yeah.
knows what's under the ground and where it might be built? Are we protecting the city as far as, are we gonna have to replace anything that they build?
So to the extent that we would otherwise be wanting to improve these easements and these rights of ways, if we had the funds to do it, it's more like a partnership type of a thing. So if we were to say yes, we would approve somebody to improve their sort of space between their two businesses. We can do the same types of misdig or whatever using our public utilities department and public works department, I meant to say, to ensure whether there are any city utilities under there so that we wouldn't be subjected to that the same way we would if it was us as a city that was going to undertake to improve that easement or that right of way. We're trying to find some creative solutions for these business owners that would like the ground to not be so rutted and that sort of a thing without having to spend the money, you know, ourselves. If those business owners want to improve that, then it seems like it's in the city's best interest to partner with them. But you're right, we're not exonerated, but we're not exonerated now. So if somebody gets injured now, when we know that the places need to be improved upon, then that is equally, you know, a risk as well. So it's like, which risk is more risky?
And I think by making them fill out an application, I mean, they're a responsible person, they're gonna want it fixed right themselves because it's their property. So I think that it should be done on a case-by-case basis. If we feel that the person's gonna have it done, you know, and we can look at the application, and if he says he's bringing in a company to do it, and they do everything right and correct, I don't see a problem with it.
That's assuming that they do it right and correct.
Well, that's what the,
But there's no, I'm trying to think of a way to explain how I'm thinking. There's no guarantee that it's going to be done right, correct?
but
We're
there's
just
no,
going
but
based
there's
off
no
of the
guarantee
company.
that if we send a city person out there that it may not be done right either, because we don't have a certain code and they're not professional at every job that they undertake.
So are you saying that, Aaron, are you saying that as opposed to just having the approved, we should have another line that says verified completion? on the same document that they apply
I'm
for?
just looking to protect the city. I mean, if we're allowing people to build on city property, there has to be.
But right now, people are approving the city easements without any kind of application. So this would be a step forward to have them get an application. I mean, I've improved my city easement on Main Street. And when I called down here to ask for the city to do it when we first moved in, they said, oh, we don't handle that. So we did it ourselves, but we didn't fill out an application or anything for us. I think this is a first step in the right direction, that we can start making progress and give the business owners something they need besides.
Also, we're not talking about building anything, we're just talking about improvements to the easement, so this does not authorize anybody to build any type of structure or anything. It would only pave a way for them to apply to make improvements to the easement, and they would have to specify what those improvements are, and then we would have an opportunity, you all as city council would have an opportunity to review that and approve that, and it could be approved subject to terms as well. I mean, Angie's not wrong that people do improve their easements all the time because they're sort of shared in their responsibility, and so an application process for improvements to the easement doesn't authorize them to build whatever they want. It would be improvements to the easement, and they would have to go through the process to do that.
And we could add a line to it, Aaron, if that would make you more susceptible to it, that it was, you know, somebody did go out there or you know, looked at it, pictures, you know.
Alright, so the other question would be, we're undertaking road improvements now, so if he builds this and we go to redo his, we're gonna have to fix whatever gets torn up.
Well, my understanding is it's not going to go out to the road. It's my understanding from the way that he explained it to me about a year ago. He wants to go out halfway into his easement. Is that the way he explained it to you?
Actually,
15 feet.
there's not a setback there. The property line is basically 6 inches from the road. And what he's looking at doing is basically smoothing that area just beyond where parking used to be when it was Napa. All he wants to do is fill in that hole.
I'm not
I
just
would
talking
like-
about this.
Not just talking
This
about
one
him, but in
particular.
general.
Yes, if we approve this and then we go through and tear it up because we redo streets.
Well,
I would like to see maybe a hold harmless clause put in here so that if we did have to dig it up, because Aaron brings up a valid point, utilities are not exactly predictable in Pleasanton.
If we were to approve this resolution, it wouldn't do anything to allow them to do anything other than submit an application stating what they wanted to do to the council, and then the council would then have to approve it or deny it, and that would be case per case.
Yeah.
But the question still hasn't been answered. Aaron asked the question. If we go and do the streets and someone's did it, you know, who's responsible for it?
Well, the council would have to approve whatever work it would be done, so we would want to make sure that whatever work they're asking for wouldn't carry over into the street area that we're going to be
This is
redoing.
his parking area. This is
Yeah.
So
his property, not the street.
right, and since we're doing it by a case-by-case basis, if there's a water line or something that's underneath it, or they have to dig it up, then we can put a clause in there that they can do it, but if they understand, if the city has to tear it up for whatever reason, that we're not gonna incur the cost to put it back.
Why?
Why?
Well, we can or we can't, it depends on if it's a case-by-case basis.
We do it for people's yards, then
Well,
we tie them up. So, I mean,
We
if we're
can,
gonna do it for people's yards,
then why
we're
is
gonna
it a
approve them
question?
if we're gonna approve them to build this,
Mhm.
then we are required to replace it back to it's normal standard.
But if we're doing it for people's yards right now and they're not filling out an application, why are we doing it? It's because it's a good faith gesture. So this is just for the application, for a case-by-case basis.
I'm worried this opens up to more harm than good.
I disagree. The man's trying to put businesses in our town, and
Exactly.
we're just
It's
gonna
not-
keep pushing
it's not
back,
a
pushing
personal
back. on
issue.
it.
That's not the thing I'm talking
I'm
about.
not saying it's personal
When
towards
you bring
him,
up the man
period.
is trying to bring business in. Congratulations, I've
Any
been trying to do that
business.
for 8 years. But this seems to be opening us up to more cost in the long run. If we approve this, we find out that there's a water main running through there. Now we have to tear it up. Not only do we have to replace the sod that might have been there at the time, or the gravel, now we have to rebuild the concrete.
Would we not
So-
rebuild the concrete to begin with? If there
If
was,
it's
if
not there, no.
there's concrete there
Okay.
now.
Bringing this back around to the resolution at hand, all the resolution does is give the owner an okay to ask if the council, if he can do this particular work, and then the council would approve it. The resolution doesn't give anybody the rights to build anything itself. That would be done upon their filling out the form and request. So the question at hand and the motion on the table is to accept the resolution that would allow the owner of the property to request of the city permission to do work that they would pay for that could improve the easement, road, street, right-of-ways right next to and between their business.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to amend my motion. I'd like to go on ahead and accept resolution, what's the number, hold on, I'm getting the other one mixed up. 456 with the application process with that's gonna be done on a case-by-case basis with the understanding that we can require certain requirements on the owner's part. And that would cover what Jackie said about if we needed to, if they were to improve something that we would have to dig up, then we would have to come to a mutual agreement at that time of application.
Okay, the motion is on the table to accept Resolution 456 and the application with an amended section listing the city's requirements for the improvement itself. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, what would make this not approvable? If somebody would put an application in, what is not approvable?
If they didn't agree to us digging up something that they put in.
So when it's submitted to the council would have to show, if you're not going to approve it, then I would expect as a business owner, if I'm asking to improve the sidewalk by my business and the little parking area that's not in my property, but if I improve it, it would make it better and easier for my customers and so forth. If the city says no, I would expect that the city would tell me why they're telling me no, or what else I could do, or what I need. Because if I know why the answer is no, then I could submit the question in a different form or a different way, or maybe solve the solution or the problem that exists from that. So what would make it not approvable would be something that the council themselves would say, well, there's a water line running right there. We don't want you building a sidewalk on top of that water line. That'd be a pretty good reason to say no to an application.
Or if the sidewalk didn't meet ADA width requirements, we could require that it meet those requirements rather than just be a pour and smear.
And that's where Angie was adding the city requirements to the application as a response to, yes, you can do it as long as you do this too.
Another thing road improvements earlier. This easement improvement was not approved by the city because it's otherwise in the area where we're already going to be making road improvements or something like that.
Yeah.
Because once we get those quotes and stuff back, to the extent you all decide to move forward with those road improvements, if somebody makes an application in a place that is already going to be improved by our master plan, we could just let them know they need hang tight until that area is improved by the master plan.
Does that answer the question?
But how long should they have to hang tight, though?
It's done by case basis, so it could be 2 months, it could be 6 months, it could be a year.
Just depends on what
It's
the
gonna
plan,
be a case by case basis.
the plan would hold. Okay. So the motion with the second is on the table for resolution 456. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Passes 4-1. Okay. And Becky, if we could just add that city requirements to that. Bids on salt storage shed concrete. So we've got a couple of bids that have been submitted in respect to a salt storage shed, and this is for just the concrete area, from my understanding. Do we have what we need going over it, Jimmy, right? We just need the concrete so we can enclose it?
What we were planning on doing was, after the concrete is set and ready to be built on, what we were gonna do is take the old, awning from the pool that used to be there, and then use it to do the framework and what covering we could. And then get like an industrial tarp where we could pull it up out of the way on the front side where we could access it and then cover it back when we're not using it. That way, southern winds and rain would not get into it and deteriorate the salt.
And that portion you all are capable of doing then? Yeah.
So how much would this cost?
It's coming around. It's
Okay.
over here. I can tell you the price if you
Oh,
want.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Tim is 4,900.
A to Z plumbing.
Yeah, easy and plumbing.
Is how much?
4,900.
Okay,
And Johnson is $11,150. But I'll still pass them around that way, MG.
Yeah. And then if we get this approved, that'll give us the ability to actually store salt, which would it?
Did I hear you
Definitely.
right? You're gonna take the awning from the pool?
Yes. It was up years ago, they took it down because of, algae growth and whatnot, so, and it just got stored out back or whatever it was, and then what we're planning on doing is repurposing the metal off of it for the building structure, and then hopefully we'll have enough metal and whatnot to sheet it.
Jimmy, how big is that area?
If I remember right, it's a 20 by 20, I believe, or something like that, somewhere in that ballpark.
Johnson said for pouring a 20 by 15 by 4.
20 by 15 by 4?
Maybe it was 15. I can't remember exactly, it's been a minute since we went over the measurements, but that should give us roughly two 10-foot bays. So.
What did we ask them to build? Did
Basically, what it will be is kind of like, it's kind of like stalls, is what it would be like what KDOT the county has, but instead of making them out of the decorative block, which, if you do it right, you really should be reinforcing the backside. So then we're gonna have to have those plus a bunch of dirt or rock or whatever taking up more room. But if we pour solid walls, it's reinforced and all that, we do not have to berm around them to use that way.
I feel like the Johnson bid's more detailed
It
than what
is.
we're going to get from A to Z, so I'm confused.
Yeah, because this has the divider, it has the key apron, which none of that's listed on there, plus it has a
And
drainage. You'll need drainage in there for any water that does get in there, is that correct?
Yeah, and that was, if I'm not mistaken, it should have been in Johnson's. I was thinking it was in should have been in Wilson's, but it might not be, I don't know. Basically what we're gonna do is when we put the tarp on it, we're gonna roll it all the way down, and we had a trough in the design for it, for the whole thing to go down into. And when you roll it up, water will shed out of that. So basically, there should not be any water getting into the salt beds, because if it does, it's gonna deteriorate the salt.
I guess I would like more clarification on the A to Z of
Yeah,
what all they're providing, like Johnson gave us.
Yeah, because, I mean, I like Johnson's bid better because it has the divider in it, it has the drain in it, it has a 6-inch salt bed floor, where this other bid just says, concrete pad with a price, rebar with a price, and labor, and lumber. I would. Because I don't feel comfortable okaying something if you said you need stalls and it's just gonna be one flat pad, then we're gonna be spending more money coming back to get it fixed the way you need it.
Right. Yeah, if we do a flat pad, then there's no point in really doing it, because the idea is to separate the materials from start to finish. That way we don't have to go out like when it iced up and snowed and everything else, we have to go out and spend 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours mixing the material, then take it out, and hopefully it's not froze. Because we had a lot of setback and issues with our spreader being plugged up by debris and large chunks and things like that.
So basically, you just need clarification on A to Z's bid, that it includes this.
Yeah, I think we need a bid specification detailing what we really want them to do, because those are apples and oranges.
Yeah.
I like the cheap bid, but I don't think it does what we need it to do. It's a reasonable price on concrete, but
and it may just be the way the bid was written.
Yeah.
I will check with them and see asking for more detail out to make sure everything's in it.
I want to make sure they understood what all we needed and that they bid it correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we can really compare those two bids. They're
Not at all.
not in the same ballpark.
Okay, court-appointed attorney for municipal court, Jacqueline.
So insofar as our municipal court is accepting misdemeanor cases, and this is in conjunction with me joining the team here, as well as with Judge Purvis, wanting to handle these things in addition to the county sending cases back to the city. Because misdemeanors carry the possibility of jail time, we are obligated to provide court-appointed attorneys for folks that can't afford an attorney. To the extent the city doesn't seek jail time or the case does not involve something that has the possibility of jail time, then they wouldn't be entitled to a court-appointed attorney. And so Judge Purvis has requested that City Council approve $400 for a court-appointed attorney. That money in municipal court is allowed to be recuperated by the defendant, but the city has to pay that court-appointed attorney initially and then seek reimbursement for that.
Is that $400 per case,
That's right, per case.
per case? So 3 or 4 cases, it would be 3 times that?
Correct.
Based on the day, okay.
Last time we had court, we had 1. I think the time before that, we had 1 or 2 as well, so like 3 in a month.
Mr.
And for
Mayor,
the most case, we would get that money back then.
That's right.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we allow for $400 for court-appointed attorneys to fill the requirements of the civil rights.
Where are we pulling that from?
It'd be from police department budget.
Okay, motion's on the table to approve the court-appointed attorney for those cases that it needs for $400. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Passes unanimous. Okay. Community Center volunteer rental fees.
Have we got a list of the volunteers that actually work on it?
I have, a folder with some names in it. Some of them are just first names. They are just, not for all the whole time it was being built. There's a day or 2 here, a day or 2 there.
And I know at last council it was said that we probably don't want that to go on indefinitely, but the council did not set an end date for such a thing. So do we want to allow that to continue for how long, or when do we want that volunteer no rental fee to conclude?
I wouldn't say a date would be appropriate. I would say how many times it gets used by a volunteer. Like we may have one person that won't need it they might need it for their son's graduation and their son's a freshman now. But we might have somebody that wants to use it every year. I think we should set a time limit on it for anybody that did volunteer on it to have maybe 1 or 2 and then no more. Because
the problem with that is I do not have a complete list of who volunteered to use. If they come in and say.
Yeah, because I looked at the list and it didn't look very complete.
Yeah.
So, and it just had multiple names on it, so, everything, so.
well, I think we should give the volunteers something. I mean,
How can we prove it?
but how can we prove if nobody kept?
I don't disagree with the people that worked on it. I'm very thankful they did.
Right.
But how do we prove they were there? I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Aaron,
can
you've
name
been
a few
along
that
this
I've
one.
seen
You have any
there, but
idea?
that's not gonna.
I'm terrible with names. So,
Your face is okay, your face.
I can't remember all who worked on it. A lot of it was done before I got on the council. So I don't have a list of people who worked on it, unfortunately.
I can think of 2 electricians that I know of that worked on it, but other than that.
And I know whoever worked on it was supposed to come in to City Hall and sign a paper up and tell how many volunteers hours. I found that out today, that they were supposed to come out and sign it up, and like if you worked on it, you were supposed to tell how many hours you worked on it.
because the volunteer hours played into the equation
Yeah,
of
and
grant
it went
funds.
to state.
So that, the list probably actually went to the state with the grant stuff and nobody
Is
took
there
a
a way
copy
to
of
get
it.
a hold of the state and see if they have a copy of that?
I can try, but I
I doubt they would have kept it.
There's no way for us to tell.
None of us were here.
So do we go with the way it's been and say January 2026, the program ends?
I mean, I think we got to.
I think we have to too, because unless we can get a list.
There were a large number of people that worked on that that did not
Ask
come
for a penny.
through and fill out or even look for recognition.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
They volunteered.
Community pride, they
came in and
volunteered,
did
and
it.
that was it.
Yeah.
Joe Pointer, my people house, you know, there's a whole bunch of.
People would stop in to talk to somebody else and end up helping for a little bit. It's a long process.
Yeah. So, anyone have a motion for the council's good pleasure?
I say we, in all fairness, I think we should wait until Becky can see if she can maybe get a list, that was maybe turned in with the grant, and make a decision next time.
I don't even know if that's worth it though, Ange, because some people weren't gonna put their names down. We're never gonna be accurate.
Yeah.
I think we just end it in January 1 and be done with it.
Make your motion.
I make a motion that we end the community center volunteer rental fees agreement January 1 of 2026.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to end the community center volunteer for rental fees for the community center effective January 1st, 2026. Any other discussion? All in favor? Passes unanimous. Car cameras for police department.
Since Tristan and I've been working together, there's a desperate need for us to have car cameras. There's been a couple incidences that he's been on that people have scattered that turned into pretty big cases that he couldn't identify everybody on. Car cameras definitely would have helped. It also helps during traffic stops, or if we call in the county's dog. Car cameras help immensely with that. And I asked Tristan to get some quotes, and Tristan, would you go on ahead and give the information that you found out this last week?
So we had a meeting with our Axon rep, which is who we have our body cameras through. He was able to get us different categories of quotes. Where'd you go? One of the quotes is basically you get the cameras and you're done. There's no replacement of equipment or anything like that. The second quote is for us to get the equipment replaced at the end of the 5-year contract. And then there's another quote that involves having LPRs and everything like that, which obviously there's no need for us to have LPRs because we don't have a whole bunch of stolen vehicles and stuff like that. There are some discounts that it just depends on which quote you would go with, but the quote that I would prefer if I was to get in-car cameras is the one where they replace the stuff at the end of the 5-year mark. Dragging it out all 5 years, it ended up being $7,370.64. the way he made it sound, the discounts depended on which one you got, so my guess is that we would get about $2,000 off of that if we did it by the end of this month, because they do their first period every 3 months, and in the first 3 months they give discounts.
How many cameras do you want to get?
That would be 3.
How much money you got in your special equipment fund?
I have no idea.
The only thing is, this was not a
It wasn't.
budgeted item, and so if you're going to spend this money, you're going to have to take away something else that was budgeted for.
For the police department.
And then on top of it, a while back we filed for those grants. He applied for.
We ended up not applying for it. So I mean, it is available, but it was only ended up being like a 15% grant.
Again, like she said, it's not budgeted for, so I don't know exactly where we take it other than our part-time salary or part-time part of our budget, because we only have one right now and we've only seen them a handful of times. So that'd be the only place that I think we could really take it from. Only problem is I brought a quote 9 months ago. The quote for the third one, which had the LPR and all that stuff on it, was about $12,000 less than it was 10 months ago. So potentially, if we waited, you're ending up with the middle quote costing about another $12,000 in another 10 months.
It's not something we budget for. I think we have to wait and you figure that into your budget for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Short.
How often, when you get out of the car, do you automatically just turn on your body cam?
Yes.
Okay.
But this is also an issue with the county attorney's office. The county attorney's office wants to see people with in-car cameras. So
Yeah.
it's, I mean, I guess I shouldn't say issue, but that is what the county attorney would like to have. And he's brought that up in a meeting that we had last month, so.
County attorney has special funds he can give police departments for that kind of stuff. You may talk to him to see if he has any of that stashed away.
But I agree with Kimberly that we should wait till next year so you can budget for it.
Well, my question is, how much is in your part-time fund?
I did 3 people. It was either 18 or 1850 for 1,000 hours. So that would be $54,000, give or take.
We currently have 1.
Currently.
So a third of that.
Yeah.
And then we have no applications as of this time for part-time, correct?
We have a couple, well, we have 1.
We have 1. So we're still looking at a yearly salary for a part-timer.
Which is roughly, if they worked 1,000 hours, would be 18,000 and 18,500, somewhere in there.
And if we took 8,000 out of that, that'd leave us $46,000 in there.
So technically it can be done. I mean, we don't have the part-time officers now. And the later we go into the year, the less hours they're actually gonna be able to work. So I'd be willing to agree to, if you're able to take it out of your part-time fund, approving this.
Like I said, I don't know completely if we can or not. I would like to think we can, because like I said, we only have 1, and it's just gonna get more expensive. I think the guy said that it raises like 7% every 3 months because of the cost of goods and stuff like that.
Out of the 3 cars, on any given day, how many of them are in service?
2.
2.
But if there's a mechanical issue with one of them, we have a backup.
Yeah.
And it still has a camera.
So it'd be the 2 Chargers and.
We have the Chargers, and then right now the other officers using the Power. So I mean, again, we could put it in the Explorer, and then we just use the Explorer. But
Is it something that we could move from vehicle to vehicle without special recalibration and reblessing?
We wouldn't be able to move it from vehicle to vehicle like every day, no.
No, but
Yeah, it could move from one vehicle to another. We would just have to have, basically, once we tell them that we have it, they will make a time, which right now it's about a 4 to 5 month wait to get them actually installed and get the items in and stuff like that. They send their own people to come and put it in. So if we want it to be removed and put it in another car, they will have to bring their people down to remove it and put it in another car.
And does it cost for them to come down every time?
I don't know if it would cost past the or after the contract. During the contract, I don't believe so. I believe that's a service that's provided in. But once that 5-year marks up, if we don't decide to recontract with them, then we would be,
it's on us.
it would be on us to pay whatever maintenance and everything that is needed.
And then after the 5 years, they replace the cameras with new ones?
At 5 years, they'll replace the cameras, and then we would talk again about signing another 5-year contract.
Do they give a discount for multi-contract?
He didn't bring up anything about that, so I'm not sure, but from what he said, the first 3 months out of the year, they have those discounts. So I don't know if it would reapply if we re-up the contract or not. That's something I would have to ask.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to go on ahead and purchase the in-car cameras not to exceed $8,000 to be agreed to with the company by the end of March to get the discount for a 5-year contract.
Is that 8,000 a year, or is that 8,000?
So it would be, let me bring this back. It would be $7,370.64 for a 5-year period. The total itself was like $37,000.
And that's not including the discount that you was telling
No, that doesn't include the discount. That would be figured in once we started working things out.
I'll
So-
second the motion.
So motion's been made to approve the car cameras, 3 car cameras at $8,000 a year for 5 years. And seconded. Any other discussion?
You said no more than $8,000.
No more than 8,000 per year for the 5 years. All those in favor? Any opposed? Passes 4-1.
Just a moment, I'll need that.
The quote or the,
Yeah.
yeah, I can print all that off.
Okay, recommendation from Planning and Zoning Board. Thank you, Chief Snyder. Recommendation from Planning and Zoning Board on plating request for Twin Buck Holding LLC for the area of property surrounding and behind Casey's. I don't know if you've all gotten a chance to look at the plat that is over there.
This on the table here?
Yes.
I got a chance.
It's my understanding by platting this puts a basic plan that they can execute in the future and provides them the opportunity to utilize that property in that
It's
separation.
not necessarily the development of it, you're not approving any of that, it's
No.
just that they can plot that out.
It's just to put something on record for the future so that when they
Yes.
do decide to actually try and bring business in or build on it.
And the plot has phases marked out on it, and different things like that of what they're thinking.
Do we have any say on what goes there?
Well, it would have to be, right now, it's still zoned agriculture, and they do know that it needs to be rezoned before they start putting anything in there.
But if they rezone it commercial, do we have any say what goes in there?
They would have to ask for building permits and request
So
of
we
us.
can still deny if they decide to put something that
Yeah.
not conducive with our town.
One of the questions that came up at the planning and zoning meeting was, what's to keep them from putting a house on there or something? Well, that would be us not rezoning it commercial. Us not rezoning it to residential because we want that to be a commercial area. So if they submit to put something on there that the council does not feel appropriate or conducively beneficial to Pleasanton, we could deny the building permit of it.
Well, it would have to go through planning and zoning to be put into one of the commercial categories, whether it is a small business category or an industrial category or what have you. The first step would be for them to file for a zoning for a zoning change.
Yeah.
So all we're really doing is voting on the lot split?
Well,
It's not really a lot split, it's just a platting, a division within itself of the lot so that they could actually then designate that out of what it could be and request building permits for there.
The plat won't affect the taxes that are paid, it's still gonna be paid as
Yeah.
a plat, okay.
But it does give them the basis for doing the engineering for utilities, road work, access.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's step one. They can't really build anything there without platting it first, getting some kind of floor plan of how to proceed forward. So that's just step one. Are we in favor of approving it? If I can get a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to go on ahead and approve the platting of the Twin Buck Holding LLC with the legal description I'm not gonna read, it's on the paper.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the platting submitted from Twin Bucks Holding for the property on 1100 Road behind Casey's. Any other discussion? All in favor? Passes unanimous. We want to set dates for citywide yard sale and cleanup day.
Thank goodness.
Becky, do we have any days in mind for that?
We're looking at possibly the yard sales for April 26th and then cleanup for April 28th. Will that work for you guys?
Do we know when Junk on the Prairie is?
What days did you say, Becky?
April 26th for the yard sales and 28th for the cleanup. I do not know what Junk on the Prairie is.
I'm looking it up.
It's across the county where multiple people have like garage sales / buy my antiques, and there's like a map that goes all around Lee County with who's on it.
And if we could coordinate so that we were doing it on the same day, we might get a little more traffic. I think that's what you call it.
It doesn't give a date. It was April 5th in 2024. That's the only date it's given. It's not given a current date for 2025.
If you would reach out to the ladies at Three Chicks and a Pony, that's who heads it.
Okay. I can message her right now.
And what was the date for the cleanup?
It's usually the Monday after the yard sale.
Maybe the
The
28th.
28th.
Yeah.
So we can wait and just, you guys don't have to necessarily approve the date.
I think it would be greatly to our advantage to coordinate to do it at the same time. I know last year, there were a lot of people that wandered into town looking for stuff. And I didn't have anything to show.
Okay. I also do want to let the council know that City Leaders Academy this year is April 11th and 12th in Lawrence. I just wanted to find out if anybody was interested in going to that as council members.
I can't this year.
Okay.
If you do have the time that you can make to do it, it is really well worth the time spent. Their timing is just not good this year.
Okay. Jacqueline, did you have anything else for us today?
Sorry, I'm having a hard time getting my mouse to work here. No, I think that we've pretty well covered it, so I'm all set, thanks.
Okay. Aaron, did you have anything?
No.
Kimberly?
I'll go last.
Rochelle?
Nope.
Bill?
Nope.
Back to Kimberly?
The fire hydrant at Ashland 14th. I've had 3 citizens that live right there who are concerned that they've been asking and asking, and we're not getting with what's wrong or when the parts are going to be here.
We don't actually know what's wrong with it. It was supposed to have been fixed, over a year ago. It was said to have been fixed, ready to go. I had water pressure and everything. Myself and John went out and tested them fall-ish area, and it did not work. We couldn't even get anything out of it. We're not even sure if the main is shut off. And if the main is shut off, then that kind of tells us that it's not just a matter of rebuilding the hydrant, but it's digging it up and replacing it at that point. The reason it hasn't been addressed at this point is because if we was to dig that up in the middle of winter, we got a hard freeze and it went into the lines, it would freeze and bust the main throughout that entire road, which has already done considerable damage to that road anyways in the past from excessive leakage. As soon as it warms up and stays consistently warm, we will get down there and get it addressed.
Okay, I'll let them know.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? Have a good night.
Can I say something right quick? This is going back to the road deal. When we do the road upgrades on whatever streets you guys pick, we have got to do something prior to the roads being redone with the ditches and the shoulders.
Yeah.
Because, like he was saying, if you do not remove the water from the roads, they're going to continue to deteriorate. And they will freeze, they will crack, they will bust, and we will wind up having the same issue that we're having on actually right now.
Yep.
With the alligator cracking and, I mean, you can literally walk on it the other day, it was like walking across water there.
That's part of the group that talked with us. They do an engineering study and will actually provide sound data on how to fix it.
Then can I recommend you have them or somebody else come in and evaluate some of the other roads due to the same issues? Because a lot of our city streets, if not most of our city streets.
Thank you.
Are,
You guys done now?
Yes.
All right, bye-bye.
So, a lot of it is the drainage, but part of it is because the water cannot physically get over the shoulder of the road. So, even the roads that we don't address, we're going to have to do something with.
Well, the goal is ultimately to address them all, but it's not gonna happen.
But if
This
we don't
week.
do something prolonged, then
What we've done